The islands of the Caribbean have been desperately searching for an effective approach to sustainably manage their marine and coastal resources. Today, that search continues in marine management areas in CARICOM countries.
What is the objective, or one of the objectives of the CATS component 2 is to bring up management operations of MPAs from here to here.
It is without doubt that economies of CARICOM depend on the management of marine environment. It is the conviction of the managers of marine managed areas that creating partnerships with key users of the marine resources must be the goal of the management plans.
And it's important that we educate persons, we sensitize the public on the importance of what we are doing.
They were adamant that this area had to be reserved for fishing purposes.
St. Lucia was the venue of a week-long workshop which embarked on groundbreaking initiatives to radically change how management and communications plans were being developed for marine managed areas in 5 CARICOM countries.
Marine protected areas provide a range of benefits, from food security for fishers and the communities that rely on all of us basically, to recreational touristic benefits from dive tourism, yachting, pleasure otherwise, recreation. So the marine protected areas serve a variety of purposes.
In attendance were representatives of existing and planned marine managed areas and consultants with experience in developing management plans and communication strategies. The islands participating in the CATS program were Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. The workshop's chief objective was to agree on the process of developing new and improved management plans.
Some countries already have actually some semblance of a management plan for their marine protected areas. Other countries do not. So it's going to be a learning process for some countries.
So in this program here, we hope to have a lot of discussion on the whole framework of the communication strategy and also looking at some revisions in the management plan.
How to get stakeholders on board, how to get the community buy-in to assist us.
That's in a nutshell what
Dr. Winfred Wiedemeyer, one of the lead experts at the workshops, explained that the management plans being developed are currently in an early drafting stage and not final documents written in stone. They are actually a continued work in progress.
What is sustainable financing? What does that mean? What's included?
The workshop was organized and facilitated by the Caribbean Aqua-Terrestrial Solutions program, CATS. The workshop culminated with a visit to the oldest marine managed area in the OECS, St. Lucia's Soufrique Canneries and Ancillary Marine Management Area, with the iconic Twin Peters as a backdrop. MMA managers from the region ended their experience in St. Lucia with a field trip to the MMA at Anscoshore, a popular snorkeling and dive site on St. Lucia's west coast. It was there too the workshop facilitators reflected on the previous 5 days of the exercise.
We're emphasizing during this workshop that we really need maybe to step back a little and ask ourselves, are the objectives that we have set something which is understood by the man in the street? The taximan, the fishers, the residents in the area, the hoteliers, the tour operators. Do they really know what's under the water? And what's important to preserve the things which we take for granted every day.
Marine managed areas need management plans that are more receptive to the concerns and aspirations of neighboring communities. In the past, consultants simply handed down management plans to be implemented, and those plans were very often not implemented.
They're just unrealistic, they're over enthusiastic, their objectives are, one could say, objectives from the 90s. Very environmental, very protection-centered, very conservationalist in a way. While nowadays there has been a paradigm shift in MPA management over the past 10 years worldwide. It's much more shifting into management.
Instead, the approach should be to start with what is called a zero draft document, where a template is presented to be completed after consultations with all parties.
And a zero draft really is a draft which has been put together by technical people and some experts, so that the ideas have been sort of formulated in terms of the thinking of the way forward.
And one thing, I'm probably going to repeat that several times over the next days to come, or we are, my colleagues as well. This drafting process is not intended to be finished anytime soon, because as everybody of course understands, the drafting process in itself is as important as will the final product be. It's a global phenomenon or issue that has come up over the past 10 years, and it has been recognized that if you don't run your MPA in a sustainable, financially sustainable way, quasi as a business, in a business style, with internal business style of management, external business style, you're apt to fail. This is one of the reasons why currently, at least that's the latest ICZM assessment for this planet, 90% of the MPAs in the world are actually financially failing.
There's not enough funding, there's not enough staff in our marine parks, and so it's very important that everybody thinks quite strategically about where they allocate the resources that they do have.
What good is protecting a stretch of the marine environment if it doesn't necessarily translate into economic benefits? We all know the biological importance, the ecological importance. We want to make sure that our fisheries are healthy and everything, but it always also comes down to the economic side. Who is making the dollar off it and what motivates them to protect it so that they protect their livelihood?
Managers of MMAs have all acknowledged that key to the success of marine managed areas is the approach to the business model chosen.
So the next question you have, okay, this is what we need to do to reach that objective. Do we have the money? It's a very simple question.
I think the first step is really getting a clear sense of, what do they have right now? What are those assets that they're starting with? What would they like to do? And start prioritizing that to just figure out what is that baseline cost and operating needs. I think once those things are set, it's a little easier to start thinking about, well, how can we get there?
Securing the hoteliers.
Currently, the MMA supported by the CATS program all require a substantial injection of funding from government or environmental agencies to sustain their management functions. Everyone at the workshop acknowledges that these marine managed areas have tremendous potential to contribute to economic development through job creation and revenue generation. Most crucially, MMA management plans need to be crafted towards achieving realistic objectives. Unrealistic objectives sometimes lead to management failure. So the first question is, in fact, what is the MMA intended for? It has been concluded that management plans that are handed down sometimes do not reflect the unique realities of neighboring communities. A desire was expressed for plans that are achievable.
And this is what we're trying to do over the 2.5 years, to support the countries and do some easy, quick fixes also on this one. Basically, the first thing to do is come up with a real, tangible, implementable, realistic MPA management plan.
What happens if you aren't necessarily meeting your revenue needs? How can you make priorities and pick sort of what is your baseline or mission critical needs and what are your optimal? So if you have sufficient revenue, you're actually above and beyond what your baseline needs are.
Those who attended the St. Lucia workshop shared real-life experiences, some having started 2 decades ago. Some marine protected areas were just in the process of being established.
Well, the mix of experiences at this workshop was tremendous because you had countries like Grenada, which is, very, very much ahead of the game, St. Lucia as well through the SMMA, sharing their experiences in terms of lessons learned through the process. And you have countries like St. Kitts and Nevis who are about to engage in terms of developing a plan to have a conservation area.
The St. Kitts and Nevis representative spoke about an area called the Narrows, which they hope to develop as a marine managed area. There are currently no management plans in place.
The Narrows Marine Reserve, which is not even established yet, and yet we are already discussing a fictional theoretical MPA management plan to be ready for the moment when it comes for designation.
Well, we can share some experience because we have been actively involved in the management of the Molyneux MPA for the past 4 years. So we have some hands-on experience and so we can share that with other MPAs, and of course we're here to learn also.
We've learned a lot from the other islands, say like Grenada. They had a case where they brought out their Prime Minister to see what the issue is. They've gotten help. Right now they're working with Mr. Roly-Poly to do a slogan and a song for them. So it shows that you can get people involved, and by having a celebrity, you can use a celebrity to get the young people on board.
The strategies that they have implemented actually can, for me, I think it can be used holistically on any management plan.
All the things that might impact.
The workshop facilitators, and in particular Robert Kerr, the Regional Technical Advisor for the CATS GIZ project, has stressed that the difference between success and failure of management plans for marine managed areas will be their communication strategy.
Have you really explained to people what we are about? The different agencies and stakeholders taking ownership of the management of the area and actually incorporating information and communication about the marine resources in their day-to-day operations, in their training programs, and in their outreach to their constituencies, so that even when the project ends or the program ends, it would have already been incorporated into the normal cycle of activities and therefore would have a life of its own.
The MMA managers were told that the communications plan has to be all-encompassing and incorporate all of the stakeholders, including those who live close to the coastline or whose activities impact marine managed areas.
We felt that it was necessary to emphasize how important it was for the process of preparing the management plan to be something popular. Popular meaning from the level of government to fishermen to people who live in the community, that they should know exactly why we want to manage these areas, what's at stake for them, what are the opportunities, and what would happen if we don't manage these areas.
It must make sense to the fisherman, it must make sense to the farmer who's farming lands up in the hillsides where, say, chemicals may be flowing into the marine protected area and causing some impact. It must make sense to the householders who are dumping waste, solid waste, indiscriminately into the environment that gets into the marine protected area.
We have to now take all of that information and how we're going to mesh that with the communication strategy.
It surpassed my expectation in terms of the development of the communication strategy. Especially for us, because we had management plan already, but the communication strategy, I think it was a very good exercise in terms of doing the whole framework and to even come up with some of the activities.
We really were aiming at getting the consensus on the process, because if you get the process wrong, then a lot of things after that won't fall into place correctly. So I think at the workshop we accomplished some agreement as to how we should go about communication and about developing these management plans. So we have frameworks and drafts for them.
So I thought it was good to bring all the countries together, all the experts together, and the whole process of developing that communication strategy and linking this strategy to the management plan. I thought it was important, a very fruitful exercise.
And moving forward on that,
the process is in motion for everyone to personally get involved in protecting marine resources which contribute meaningfully to economic growth. The marine environment does not belong exclusively to the users of the resource. Politicians and decision makers, the business fraternity, community groups, clubs, schools, churches, and yes, the fishermen, pleasure boat operators, and the youth are all responsible for ensuring there is consensus on the sustainable management of our marine resources. Manage now for the sustainability of our marine resources. You have a role to play.